Building up from the information from Steve, Ed, and Bristol, I'll give a case study for quantitative adverse outcome pathway uh, with aromatase inhibition AOP. So moving from adverse outcome pathway to quantitative adverse outcome pathway, AOP defines association between a molecular initiating event and an adverse outcome. The quantitative adverse outcome pathway designed to provide quantitative information for dose response and time course predictions. So for AOP, it defines molecular initiating event, key events, and adverse effect. But for QAOP, we'll need information related to dosimetry in order to start driving the program to perform predictions. Here, we show that the QAOP is a combination of linked quantitative model. So we utilize the same framework, but we have three linked model. Start with HPG access model, where it describes the molecular initiating event of aromatase inhibition, followed by several key events such as the production of estradiol and vitellogen and the concentration in plasma. And using the output from HPG access model with vitellogen and concentration in the plasma, this is the input for our oocyte growth dynamic model. And the model will perform prediction for the ovulation and spawning behavior. And with the output of oocyte growth dynamic model, population dynamic model will perform prediction for population trajectory. So I'll talk about the three models and how they link together. Start with the HPG access model. This is the diagram for Fehaminyl HPG access model. The chemical enters through the gill compartment for the fish body and distributes through the bloodstream, where it reaches to the target site. That we use the model chemical fadrozole here, where fadrozole binds to aromatase and inhibit the conversion from testosterone to estradiol. Then the fish body sends reduced concentration of estradiol, which the model described that there will be regulatory hormone LH-FSH released from the brain, where LH-FSH can stimulate the synthesis of aromatase messenger RNA. This is the regulatory loop that we describe in the computational model. And also, estradiol will circulate in the bloodstream where the reach to the liver, and estradiol binds to estrogen receptor to drive the production of vitellogenin. As mentioned earlier, vitellogenin is an important egg yolk precursor to support egg development. And here is some data that predict from the computational model that we have effect of aromatase inhibition on venous estradiol. The fourth figure has the same axis, where the x-axis is time and the y-axis is plasma estradiol. The squares are laboratory observation and the lines are model prediction. Figure A is the control data, while figure B are fish exposed to low dose fadrozole with 0.5 microgram per liter. The laboratory observation shows similar level of estradiol, while the model predict a small reduction when they exposed to the chemical. In figure C, this shows middle dose exposure for fish exposed to fadrozole with 3 microgram per liter. The model describes the reduction during exposure period, and once the exposure ends at day 8, there is a high level recovery observed from the laboratory, which is not fully described in the model. And figure D is high level exposure for fish exposed to 30 microgram per liter of the chemical. The exposure induced a high level reduction for estradiol, and once the chemical is removed at day 8, a recovery phase was observed and described in the model. Oops. Also, here we shows effect of aromatase inhibition on venous vitellogenin. There are 4 figures actually, but they have the same axis where the x-axis is time and y-axis is vitellogenin concentration in the plasma. The circle are laboratory observation, while the lines are model predictions. Figure A is the control data, and figure B again is under the same format where fish exposed to low dose fadrozole with 0.5 microgram per liter. And we can focus on figure C, where fish exposed to middle dose fadrozole with 3 microgram per liter. The exposure induced high level of vitellogenin reduction at around day 4, and once the chemical is removed, a slow recovery was observed from the laboratory, and the model does not fully describe this part of the observation. Also, figure D is high-level fadrozole exposure for fish exposed to 30 microgram per liter of fadrozole. The exposure induced high-level vitellogenin reduction around day 2, and after the chemical was removed, slow recovery was observed up to 10 to 20 days. And this is our ongoing effort that we focus on describing this part of the data. Next is the oocyte growth dynamic model, where it takes the output from HPG axis model, where it is with the vitellogenin concentration in the plasma, and perform prediction for ovulation and spawning. So here is the diagram of the model. The model is developed by Dr. Karen Watanabe in Oregon Health and Science University. So in the model, it describes there's a pool of oogonia. They get periodically recruited for oocyte development. Once the egg is recruited for the oocyte development, the driving force for egg to develop is the concentration of vitellogenin in the plasma, which is the output from previous model. And once the egg grow to the critical size, the fish will release that clutch of the egg. So, and the model is a statistical model with a Monte Carlo component in it. So you can see that each the spawning interval and the clutch size here is not a fixed number. It actually calibrates against laboratory observation. And here are the model predictions for fecundity based on vitellogenin concentration. So again, we have the HPG axis model perform prediction for vitellogenin concentration as the input for this model. And then figure A shows the prediction of normal fecundity compared to laboratory observation. In this figure, the x-axis is time in day, while the y-axis is the cumulative number of eggs. The blue squares with whiskers are model prediction, while the green squares are laboratory observation. So for control data, the model prediction are pretty close to the laboratory observation. Now we'll look at the effects of fadrozole on fecundity compared to laboratory result. In figure B, the x-axis is fadrozole concentration for control 2 and 10 microgram per liter, while the y-axis is average fecundity. And the box plot, the red line is the median, while the upper and lower edge is, for the box, is 70 and 25 percentile. The whiskers are the maximum value excluding the outlier. The green dots are laboratory observations, while the red cross is the outlier. So in this part of the model, we can see that the model performs predictions that overlap with laboratory observations. And last, I will show population dynamics model, where the model is developed by Dr. David Miller in US EPA. This is the prediction of population dynamics, where the model takes the output from oocyte growth dynamic model under the exposure scenario and perform prediction for population trajectory. And the x-axis is time and year. The y-axis is population size. For fish exposed to fluorouracil 2, 10, or 50 microgram per liter, as you can see, they would induce a significant reduction for fish population. So taken together, here we shows that the aromatase inhibition, QAOP, is the link of the three model for HPG axis model, oocyte growth dynamic model, and population dynamics model. So return on the investment, a fully developed QAOP will be a powerful predictive tool that we can design our desired input exposure scenario and perform prediction that based on the adverse outcome. However, there are big data needs for each model development from both laboratory observation, also from model development. And a mature QAOP will serve as in silico description for in vivo biology, which also in a way QAOP can perform in vivo in vitro extrapolation. So we'd like to ask ourselves when the QAOP will be ready to support regulatory decision making. We think that the evidence of the confidence in prediction provided by QAOP will be the key. Currently, the QAOP model development based on close collaboration between experimentalist and computational modeler working as an integrated team. And the mixture, so in our current ongoing effort, mixture toxicity predictions will be tested experimentally for model refinement. And regulatory decision makers are likely to use the decision support tools that are most reliable and least uncertain. So the need to plan for evaluation of not only of confidence in the QAOP, but of the confidence in the QAOP relative to that for the decision support tools used in the absence of the QAOP. And the degree of confidence that is needed will be application dependent. So in summary, I talk about the aromatase inhibition AOP and show a case study of QAOP as the link of three models that perform population trajectory predictions. And we also working on, we don't have time here to talk about it, but we're also working on mixture study, utilize toxicity equivalent factor as our strategy to study the mixture study. And then I also address the consideration of the QAOP, when the QAOP will be ready for regulatory decision making. So here is the our collaboration group from both the Duluth and also other modelers.